The Countryside Podcasts with Chris Skinner. Rat has been secured with some baling twine, or whatever that string is, and we're back on High Ash Farm. And well, whoever said the month of February is the cruelest of them all? I think he got it spot on, because today is rather cold and dank.
Yes, it's that easterly wind, the one that goes right through you. My dad and all the farm workers used to say, "Yep, you have to stand sideways and let it go past you." It's sort of brutally cold, and I think we've got some influence from the high pressure that's over Central Europe at the moment, and that's affected lots of bird movements at the farm here. Suddenly we've had, I think you can call it an eruption of woodcock coming in from the near continent. The ground's frozen even right on the western coast of Europe, only 200-300 miles away in Denmark. The temperatures down there are -7, 8, 9 and 10, and right over in Central Europe where Ukraine is, it's in the news obviously at the moment, in Russia it's -20 over there. Incredibly cold.
Unimaginable, that, isn't it?
It
really
is, and it does cause problems with the crops there. The winter wheat suffers from something that occasionally we have it here in the UK. It's called frost lift. When the ground is sort of moist from the autumn, the soil then freezes, the top layer, and as you know, if anything with water in it freezes, it expands and it lifts the wheat plants up and fractures the roots that are in the unfrozen soil underneath. So it's called frost lift. I have seen it here at the farm in sort of the 60s and 70s. We had a few cold winters back then, and so it has affected the bird population. So we've got some birds waiting to go back to Europe, things like the redwing and fieldfare. We've got some quite large flocks here at the farm at the moment, and some are coming the other way. Last week I mentioned on the podcast that I'd seen a big flock of lapwing. They're really quite nomadic. They've come across from Western Europe as well. And this week we've got birds coming in from Europe, the woodcock, and right at the end of the shooting season, and quite a number have been shot. I've been in touch with local game dealers, and they're almost overwhelmed with the amount of woodcock coming in. The sad thing is, it's a red list species, only weighs about 4 ounces, and it's really a bit beyond me once you understand why the numbers have increased hugely in the last few weeks. You wouldn't be shooting a refugee. And Rat's probably agreeing with me. I'm going to have to pick him up. He's always interrupting, isn't he? Yeah, it's very rude.
Yeah, I think Rat quite likes woodcock as well.
Yes, he does. He flushes them. And
But those are like ones that have come here for refuge,
Yes.
as you said, and in fact quite a few of them have been shot, but the season's over now.
It is, yes. Technically, the season finishes on the 1st of February when you look at the game rules and legislation that goes with it. But February the 1st this year was on a Sunday, and technically you can't shoot game either after sunset, after dark in other words, and you cannot shoot game on a Sunday either.
Is that because the Archbishop of Canterbury wouldn't approve, is it?
I'm not sure quite why those
It's lost in
rules
the mists of time, that.
It is. The old game sort of shooting rules really need a big adjustment. We'll talk about that because we've got some lovely questions after we've done this part of the podcast from our dear listeners. But I brought you to an area on the farm. Sadly, I can't tell everybody exactly where we are. Normally each week I say which field we're on, where we are and what we're going to do. But we're on High Ash Farm, I'll say that much, and something strange has happened here. It's really taken me by surprise, and to find out exactly what had happened, I bought a new trail cam and installed it here during the week, and it gave the game away, gave all the answers to the questions I'd be asking, and because the creatures that live here are not out and about during the daytime. And it's a kind of reverse process what's happened. So it's an explanation as to why these particular creatures, and I can tell you what they are, they're badgers. We've got a new badger set, which gives me a huge smile. It's badger set number 3 at High Ash Farm.
And this is a fair way from the other two, isn't it?
It is, yes. The main one, and I can talk about that and tell you where it is. It's in Fox's Grove, because I've got it all secured with cameras all around the set, and it records everything that's there. And if something is in the area after the hours of darkness, it will ring my phone. It's just a standard thing that I do to protect them, because I've talked about them, and there are still people out and about who detest badgers. They'll eat ground nesting birds' eggs, they'll raid bees' nests and hives, they'll raid wasps' nests, but most of their diet, most of the time, is worms. That's their top food, which surprises everybody. So we're in an area of the farm that's absolutely surrounded by grassland, and some overwinter wild bird seed mix over there I can see in the distance, and that's a very high small mammal population. Badgers will eat small mammals as well. Now, I visit this area of the farm quite regularly, and that's why I put Rat on his lead and collar here this morning, because there's some fresh excavations just here beside us. I just assumed it was rabbits, because this is quite a good sort of west-facing slope, sandy, gravelly soil underneath, younger trees all around us, some conifers here.
Big pile of very light-coloured sand.
Yes, there is, about half a tonne of sand, and that gives the game away. And most mornings there's some fresh footprints here, but we're just going to walk down this steep escarpment a little bit. You have to try not to fall down some of the holes which are being excavated as we walk down here. You can see some fresh digging here.
Or scrabbling going on.
Lots of sort of worms or beetles. That's another favourite for badgers, is to feast on beetles. Another large hole there with about 3/4 of a tonne of sand and gravel dug out. And then we go down to the important bit, which is where I put the camera. Lots of bird droppings, look, under these conifer trees here. The ground is peppered, so we have jackdaws roosting here, quite a few pheasants roosting as well. Now, here's the beginnings of set number 3. All the way round where we're standing are some really large, deep holes and fresh soil being dug out. Smaller holes around the entrance of these particular holes here. And that's a latrine where the badgers will go to the toilet. And I can put Rat on the ground here because he's secured. And this was all dug last night. Roots and rabbit holes as well all around. So
you're concerned Rat will go straight down one of these holes?
He certainly would.
The scent is so fresh.
Yes, he absolutely would. And he's investigating it. But it's been here about 3 months now. Now, the population started off as 1 badger, then 2. There, fortunately I've got him because he's almost out of sight down the hole, but I'm holding it. It's like holding a very large fish on the end of a piece of fishing line. Rat, would you come out? Good boy. So all around is sort of freshly dug soil, and the most exciting part is one of the badgers that's come in, and all 4 that I've recorded here are not from High Ash Farm. That normally badger sets, when they get to a certain size, they sort of have family disagreements, just normal life, whether it's humans, badgers, or even the deer species on the farm. So they do have a disagreements, but the badger set, the main one in Fox's Grove, around 16, 17 badgers there permanently, so it's quite a large set. 50 entrances on that one. This one's got about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 2 at the top. This has got 7 at the moment, and it's being enlarged as we speak. Now the exciting bit is one of those badgers is a sow, a female. The other exciting bit is she's pregnant, and I think because bedding's been gathered, there's some horses a few fields away, and they've got hay out in the field, and there's been signs of hay and leaf litter, a bit of bracken coming in and going down into the set. And this is the time of year that badgers give birth. Their normal gestation's probably about 8 weeks, but the female badger, this is where it gets a bit muddling sometimes, does something called delayed implantation, and she might have mated in last June or even July. The eggs get fertilised, but they don't embed in the uterus wall. They stay floating. They're called zygotes. And eventually, once you get to November and December, then the eggs migrate and attach themselves to the uterus wall and start sort of feeding on the blood and just grow normally from that point onwards. So it's called delayed implantation. Stoats and weasels, because badgers are members of a much bigger family, mustelids. Stoats, weasels are members of that family, pine martins, and they all have developed in slightly different ways. So, and otters. So otters kind of specialise in water habitats. Badgers and rats decided to go down again. You're not. I'm going to keep the line tight. This would be, because there's probably 200 or 300 feet of badger tunnels under
already, and these are quite fresh.
These are fresh. Although the soil looks a bit sort of, well, I don't know quite how to describe it. You can see
this one quite well there, can't you? Going right under.
And this is the litter that's been gathered. Although it looks as though it's been here a little while, badgers just love fresh bedding, and they'll take the bedding down, bring it out, and because this is a new set, we haven't got much bedding coming out at the moment, but they'll have quite large chambers, so the corridors, or it will be a labyrinth of holes underneath where we're standing, they'll all join up, and then you'll have passing places in those so badgers can pass each other, and also 1 or 2 much larger chambers where there's bedding in for the cubs to be in, because you want your cubs in cold, damp conditions. The mother, once she's given birth, will not be with the cubs. They'll still have that little black and white face on, and even at a few days old, they'll have that sort of, so you can identify what they are. They only weigh about 100 grams each just after they're born, 4 or 5 ounces, so they're quite tiny, and then mother will feed them on milk, and then eventually they'll have solid foods once they get to about 4 or 5 weeks old, and they'll start to investigate this area. But they're quite safe here. It's a kind of safe, secluded area that we're in.
You said, though, that this badger tribe is not an offshoot of the one you already have.
No, the original ones are still there with their same numbers. So I don't know where they've come from. They can come quite a distance. So something's happened. Either they've been persecuted or shot at. Something's happened to make them
sort of
move.
displacement.
Something, or the first thing I mentioned is badgers have kind of fallouts, and part of the set will break away. It has happened to the main set here at the farm, but they didn't move onto High Ash Farm. They moved to a parish nearby, the one in Fox's Grove. They moved to Bixley, which is a small hamlet about a mile away from High Ash. I know where they went.
They had to cross quite a busy road,
They absolutely did, and that accounted for 2 or 3 of them. We had a coldish winter about 3 years ago when there was a small amount of snow on the road, and the local council, quite rightly, put salt on the road, and badgers unfortunately were addicted to the salt and were sort of eating the salt crystals on the main Norwich to Bungay road, right on the sort of northeast side of High Ash Farm, and 2 of them at least got killed on the side of the road. But the badger set over there from that breakaway sort of group that got either pushed out or they left of their own volition, they got two of them did get killed, and but there's a thriving set over there now.
But to emigrate is a wholly natural thing that badgers would do anyway.
Yes, they will. They can cover a huge area. They generally mark their territory by scent marking. So the male badger, which is sort of quite a large animal, it always surprises people. They can be up to 1 metre long, 39 inches long from tip of nose to tip of tail, and they can weigh about 12.5, 13 kilos. The sow slightly smaller, so the male's called a boar, and he marks his territory. He will go round, so the limits of his territory, he'll dig little holes and scent mark it, and if anybody crosses that, then he'll challenge them. So they mean business, so they have their territory. I suppose you call them sort of Britain's original landowners. Once the end of the Ice Age was here, we got cut off from the continent, but there's certainly badgers on the near continent, quite close to the British UK coastal regions. You go across the North Sea and you'll see them in Denmark, certainly in northern France. They've got badgers all the way round, but we got cut off. But they're part of that original dynasty of land-dwelling animals that specialise in digging. So everything about a badger is designed for digging holes. The otter is obviously designed for being in water, the pine marten for kind of trapeze action up in the trees, and the stoats and weasels slim and slick for going down holes to catch their prey. All members of that mustelid family. They have glands under their tails, and so watching the videos here with the new camera, I could actually see them doing lots and lots of scent marking and sort of sniffing around the trees and checking everything's safe, because it's new territory for them. It's a bit like moving into a new house. You've got to kind of get used to the neighbours all around you and see what's here. But it's really exciting. But it's happened the other way round to what you'd think. I haven't asked the badgers to come. They've brought themselves here, obviously, because the habitat's right. All the way round, we're looking around at various hay grass fields, and that's their hunting habitat. It's quite strange to think. You'd think they'd spend a lot of time in woodland, but I noticed there's a lot of green plants just coming up. They're called lords and ladies, and all over this area of farms, it's arum maculatum is the scientific name, and they're already up 4 to 5 inches despite the cold, and the badgers have been going through the woodland, just digging up the corms, discarding the poisonous yellow bit, and really having a field day on the which is quite an interesting plant. So you can see when you look through the woodland floor, these big clumps of green plants, which are quite nutritious. And so Rat's getting very impetuous, and I'm sorry, I've now got a washing bill. He's just jumped up on your trousers after being down the badger hole here. So this is now called a set. Interesting, that's where foxes are called earths. And originally, in some of the old wildlife books, badgers' sets, as we call them now, were called holts, which is the same name that we would use for otters. And so where they sort of dam off and make their holt underneath riverbanks, and then you've got beavers as well. So you have all this sort of tapestry of different wildlife, but it's great to have them here. They're obviously thriving, but some of the local farmers might sort of be a bit sniffy about this arrangement that I have with wildlife, but it's exactly what we're trying to do to increase biodiversity, and it's all part of our natural wildlife, not some of it. You know, you can stand back and think, oh, you know, we don't want predators here, but it's all part of that balanced sort of ecosystem, which is what we're trying desperately to recreate before we lose it. We've done so much damage in the last 50 or so years with modern farming techniques, and I have to hold my hand up. I'm as guilty as anybody, but what I've done here shows that you can not only halt the reverse, but reverse the decline in the wildlife by a little bit of sympathetic management. So I'm thrilled to show you these holes. I never thought I'd be saying this, but
More brockies.
yes, yeah, they've got lots and lots of nicknames all across the country, different parts, and some of them are really confusing. There's some of the sayings that have come into our language, and I have to look at you and smile a little bit when I say this one. So goodness knows where it's come from, because badgers are covered in quite long hair, sort of two types of hair, undercoat, rather like hairs, and then much longer hairs called guard hairs, which in Scotland they use for sporrans, of course. Best shaving brushes of all. But one saying I cannot work out at all is to sort of work out where bald as a badger comes from, because they're covered in dense hair, and I have to smile, everybody, and try not to look at Matthew without bursting out laughing. But there we are. It's really unusual, and of course to badger somebody is to sort of, chivvy them and try and get the secret out, and I don't fully understand where that comes from either, but there we are. Lots of lovely sayings. So bald as a badger, I love it. Come on, let's get back to the car before we freeze.
The wonderful thing is your new neighbours here.
Yes.
They'll have known we were here.
Oh, absolutely, but they're all asleep. They're strictly nocturnal, so you won't come down and find these here during daylight hours. Absolutely, completely nocturnal. So there we are. Cool, I can feel that easterly wind cutting through here now.
Quite keen. Yeah, and he's now flown onto a higher branch. Look at that, Chris. We're looking through a hedge here. We're on a public road, and you've just spotted something from the car.
Matthew, we've got a pasture right beside us. We're on a tiny road. I've kept the truck running because I don't want to be a sort of traffic nuisance for anybody who drives up. And there's a small pine copse right next to us. And there's two buzzards in there. I think they're both youngsters. Let me just turn the engine off for a moment. And they've taken up residence in this small area of woodland. And they're very distinctive because they're quite plump, broad shoulders. And what's happened is the horses are being fed the hay out in the woodland there, and they're munching away, and any grass seeds that are in hay have dropped on the ground. So that's been happening for about 8 to 10 weeks now. The horses have been fed out on the pasture as the grass sort of stops growing at this time of the year. So we then have a sort of quite a large population of short-tailed field voles, long-tailed field mice feeding on those grass seeds. That's then attracted the predators in, so that lovely sort of chain reaction that we've talked about many times before. And so the predators have come in, but not just a pair of buzzards. There's also a young goshawk, and that's one of Britain's rarer birds. I mean, to see this here is a red letter day without a doubt.
I think I can see one of the buzzards now, a bit higher up the tree there, 20 feet up.
Oh yes, right by the trunk.
You can see the tail, quite a long tail hanging down.
Yes, they've got quite long tail. Now, the goshawk looks completely different. It's very slim, sits there very erect, and again, I think it's a youngster. And we have goshawk nesting on the farm. They've been nesting here about 8-9 years now. The farm is so well timbered. I think goshawks ideally need a couple of 100 acres of solid woodland, but because the habitat, I'm just going to move because there's a car coming up, and I'm parked in the middle of the road like farmers do, and we'll just move forwards.
Do you think you own the road? Well, actually, yes.
Goes through my farm, so. And I'll put the indicator on because we've got a large van coming behind us as well. Let's just turn the car off and hope the van can get past. I think he can. And so the goshawk are just amazing birds. To give you an idea,
well, we've got a better view now.
Oh right, yes, look at that.
Look at that.
Yes,
He's big.
that's quite a lot of white speckling on the breast. Oh dear, I think you can get through, can't you?
Things we do for nature, you see.
Yes. Oh, that's South Norfolk. Sort of
Tree services. All aspects of work undertaken.
Yes.
This is such a narrow, small country lane here, but it's quite busy, isn't it?
It's single track. It's really busy, yes. There's some road closures in the area, but the Goshawk is something really special. They're normally so shy that you just don't see them. They might be about, to give you an idea about a goshawk, quite slim, narrower wings than the buzzard, and just almost purely woodland birds. Anybody who's seen a sparrowhawk, if you close your eyes and imagine something twice the size at least, and ferocious killers, they can easily take down a wood pigeon. Collared doves would be another favourite, although you don't really get many collared doves in a sort of dense woodland. But jays are another good prey species for them. They will occasionally take game birds, hence they're one of those raptor species that are often persecuted as well, sadly, even in these modern times. But to see quite close to a pair of buzzards like that, and we're only 100 yards from them, is quite amazing. So
they go after the same food, and there's a bit of competition there.
Yes, because the goshawk's doing something a little bit unusual. I think it's an inexperienced hunter, so it's choosing to eat small mammals on the ground. But I have had to learn, because the peregrines that nested at Norwich Cathedral, I did have a sort of quite a good discussion, I should say, with a lady who said, "Oh, peregrines will never take prey on the ground." And I was in Norwich market, the open air market, quite near City Hall, and somebody was selling sandwiches, and it was called Henry's Hog Roast. He might as well have an advert. And he said, I've had a peregrine come through and take pigeons from outside the stall, he said. And I dictated that to this lady. She said, no, they would never do that. They'd never take anything off the ground, always aerial sort of captures. And then there was a starling roost in the top of one of the buildings in the centre of Norwich, and the peregrines were clambering about as the starlings were going to roost, actually grabbing them out of their roost site and plucking them and eating them on the spot. So you do have a little bit of learnt behaviour from the normal way of raptors actually hunting sometimes.
So there's textbook behaviour,
yes.
And then there's the behaviour that the birds themselves learn and develop.
Yes, barn owls here at the farm. I've seen them in one of the streams on the farm, actually collecting the frogs when they come out of hibernation, standing in the water. Yes, caught that on video as well. So nature is always full of surprises. So when you're watching nature, always be prepared for the unexpected.
Oh, and your birds going down rabbit holes as well.
Yes, oh, yeah, my father accused me of being a wrong 'un. He said, yeah, little owls don't go down rabbit holes, I can promise you that. He said, you've been hallucinating, or another word, he didn't quite know how to pronounce that, hallucinating, but it was so funny. And in latter years, I put the camera there because I knew I'd got a pair of little owls, Britain's smallest owl, nesting right in the middle of a rabbit warren, which was fully occupied. And there, during sunny afternoons, the male would stand at the entrance to the hole, just sunning himself, and then turning round and walking back down to be with his lady. And the young then came out and fledged right at the entrance of the warren. That was quite amazing. So sometimes wildlife takes you by surprise, and so to park on the edge of the road in the truck here, 100 yards away from two young buzzards making the most of the hay spillage, and occasionally they're joined by a young goshawk. You couldn't make it up. It's 6:30 in the morning. The security lights are still on and blazing away in the farmyard, and I've just walked down the farmyard and there's a few shrubs on the way down. First wood pigeons have started calling, and there's a robin singing quite loudly near the top of one of the shrubs as I walk down the farmyard. Horse just going past. The livery girls start really early in the morning, put the horses out on the pastures, and the robin is still singing. But it's not a normal robin's song. A few minutes ago, it was singing at full volume. As robins do at this time of the year, sitting out their territory. We've talked about it on the podcast several times before, about sounds that you can hear in late winter, around the end of January. Robins start singing much earlier in November, and this one is singing a special song. It's called Singing Inwardly. It's only a few feet from me, but it's barely audible. So what's happening? Why is it doing that? Well, I can tell you. I've got a thermal vest on, a shirt, 2 jumpers and a fleece, and it's still freezing cold. And the robin kind of can't stop itself from singing, so it's singing with its beak shut. Gilbert White was one of the first people, very early naturalist who recorded the sounds of nature around where he was vicar in Selborne a long time ago. And he noticed the same thing, the sound that I'm listening to at the moment. Very briefly in his nature notes, robins singing inwardly. And that's what I'm listening to. So it's a little bit too cold to blast out your normal robin song, to let the mate that soon be building her nest know that you're on guard duty, if you like. So it's a really special moment, because I think the robin, it's in the dense sort of evergreen shrubbery that I've planted on my way down the farmyard, is singing in the hedge itself. It's not come out on top, but it's nevertheless is still singing, and it makes me smile. I suppose the closest we can get to that, making that sound, is to hum. But if you try and whistle, you have to have your mouth open.
Chris, the sound of some of your favourite birds.
Matthew, it's one of the success stories for conservation at High Ash Farm. The house sparrows, one of those red list species, declined by 50% or more, and we have over 100 here. It's a huge smile on my face.
Chattering sparrows, just one of the sounds that you can hear on the High Ash Farm podcast. But we need a favour.
Yes, we do. We're asking for donations and any help that you can give to help keep the podcast going.
You can make a monthly or just a one-off payment. highashfarm.com/podcast.
Well done, Matthew. It's still singing. It's barely audible though, so I hope we can just about hear it on the microphone.
so faint and yet so beautiful. And the song is slightly different. Obviously it's muffled, but the same trill notes are not there that I recorded a little bit earlier on full blast. So they have different songs for different ways of singing. But nevertheless, if the female, the hen robin, is nearby, she can certainly hear that. He also has a long, drawn-out, high-pitched whistle if a cat or fox or stoat or weasel, or more especially my terrible terrier, was walking past. He will give a long, almost whistle call, which nightingales, blackbirds and thrushes, they're all members of the same family, will do. And the livery girl's just walking back from the field, going past me. She doesn't know I'm here. There we are. Lovely way to start the day. The sounds of nature. Quite soon the mallard will be taking off from the farmyard duck pond once it's light enough. Quite a few spend the night here now. And I can see a blackbird in the top of a fairly young beech tree. Oh, it's just flown across. It's sitting there, and that's the same blackbird that was singing last spring, I think. Using the same songpost, it probably is singing as well. But again, singing inwardly. All those members of the thrush family do that. There we are. Right. Oh, that's normal robin song now. Robin's just come in the higher up in the shrubbery near the top. He's likely to see me. Oh, wow. That's Robin. Same Robin. Full blast. Horses snorting in the stables wanting to get out. Another horse going to walk past. And the robin still singing, completely unaware that I'm standing right next to the hedge where it's singing. Oh, first, lesser blackback gulls going over the top, heading inland. It's barely light. There we are. I'll wait for Matthew to come on later today. But a nice way to start a chilly late winter morning with a little bit of robin singing inwardly and then outwardly, if there's such a term.
Back in the farm office, hands are thawing out. It's quite fresh today. Wonderful to see the buzzards though, and see the evidence of those badgers.
Yes, Matthew. As I said, there's always something thrilling happening at any of the seasons we have here in the UK, and that's a real special treat. 3 badger sets, yes, at the High Ash Farm now. So proud.
Here's Liz and Brian, a card from them, wishing you all the best, Chris, which is nice to read that out. And Liz and Brian says, we have a static caravan very close to Snettisham RSPB Reserve in West Norfolk, next to Wild Ken Hill. and we feel that you have enhanced the way we look at all the nature around us.
Yes, thank you very much for that. And they're going to visit High Ash Farm 4 times in the coming year, and they've just been last week. Sadly, I missed them. I wasn't here, but next time I'm going to greet you and say hello and show you some of the special things that we have here in the farm in springtime.
Here's a note from Deb, who lives in California, in Loomis.
Goodness me.
Not California Sands, which is on the Norfolk coast.
That certainly is. I get muddled between the two.
Deb says, I'm a huge fan of your podcast, Chris. I love hearing about the British countryside and enjoy the Norfolk accents. Reminds me of my late mother.
Wow, I thought I spoke in Queen's English, but there we are. I didn't know I'd got a twang.
Camilla lives in the New Forest in Hampshire, and while in hospital I'd listen to your podcast every day to take myself away from the various beeps and noises of a busy hospital. Thank goodness for High Ash Farm and giving us listeners your insight and joy of nature. Once out, having the blessing of living, what do I do but I go and wander and let the sights and sounds of forest or heathland do its work around me. Well, if we weren't in Norfolk, I suppose the New Forest wouldn't be a bad place to be.
No, I think you're very lucky to be there. And of course, the UK has a huge variety of habitats. We've got 5 or 6 particularly different ones here in East Anglia. And I know that we're blessed to be living in this part of the UK. But every part of England has got something special about it.
Camilla's outdone you. She's had a quadruple bypass.
Yes, I think I'm only having a triple. Still in the pipeline.
I might pour myself a triple later after today's.
I think you'll need it, yes.
Mark Davies sending you his best wishes, along with so many others to whom you bring great joy. That's a lovely note, Mark. And he says, your podcast provides me with a link to my mother, who passed away in December. Passionate about nature she was, and farming as a farmer's daughter. He has got a question, though. Mark says, it's a broad question. If you had a magic wand, what is the one change you would make to conservation terms which would benefit this generation and people in future times?
Oh, right. That's sort of made me scratch my head a little bit. But the answer's quite simple. It's to look after the wildlife that we have here in the UK, particularly those that are threatened at the moment. And you can tell which they are. Generally, they're labelled with what's called a red list species. Things like partridges, woodcock, some of the game birds that I've mentioned there. I think once you're classified as a red list species, declined by 50% or more in the last 20, 25 years, then you deserve to be protected. So I'd like to see them temporarily at least come off the game list and not be shot anymore, because it just is so sad that we're having them decline. Things like our native grey partridge declined by 70, 80, even 90% in places, our only native species, and we're still shooting them and carrying out a lot of wildlife persecution to kind of preserve them on shooting estates. Neither of those should happen, so we should be looking after them, and that's my passion. And I can't say anything else. And of course the badgers we visited today as well, still being, sadly having to be culled in certain areas of the country. Even they're shot even if they're infected by tuberculosis. So that's also sad. So I think we need to have a general wildlife review and protect what we've got left before we lose it all.
Thanks for all the letters, cards and emails. Always terrific to hear from you. You can go online, highashfarm.com, to find out addresses and everything else. And I can tell you that the email is chris@highashfarm.com. And you can visit the High Ash Farm website to find out more about making donations. And a big thank you to everyone who already has, because people are so generous, aren't they?
Yes, absolutely. And it's really important because the podcast just does generate some cost to it, and we just like to cover those. Anything surplus goes for the conservation on High Ash Farm. And thank you everybody who's contributed. It's really, really warmly received and very generous. Thank you.
That's the only warm thing this week, isn't
I
it?
know,
It really has been
cold.
easterly blow coming in. It's very, very uncomfortable, but here in the office it's nice and cosy.
Yeah, we're all tucked in. So it's back to work now for me. I'm carrying on do as much as I possibly can at the moment before I'm grabbed by Patworth. Yes,
Well, you'll keep us in touch.
I
won't you?
certainly will.